Marcus Lee never thought a simple drive home would turn into the night that would change everything. The evening was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of stillness that should have felt safe. But Marcus had grown up knowing better. Quiet streets didn't always mean safety, they often hid the kind of danger you couldn't see coming. He was 29 years old, a software engineer who stayed out of trouble, paid his bills, and spent most of his free time visiting his mother. That night, he was heading home with a bag of groceries in the passenger seat and his mother's medication tucked neatly in a paper bag. Then, blue and red lights filled his rearview mirror. Marcus's heart dropped. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't swerving. His taillights were fine. But experience had taught him something every black man in America knows. Being innocent doesn't always matter. He pulled over, his hands steady on the wheel, moving with the kind of deliberate calm that could mean the difference between making it home or becoming a headline. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, "Stay calm. Do what you've been taught. Come home alive." The officer's door slammed. Heavy boots crunched against the pavement. Marcus caught a glimpse of him in the side mirror, Officer Bradley Kane. The name was familiar. In this small town, it was hard not to know him. Kane had a reputation, quick temper, heavy hand, and a history of aggressive policing that no one dared to challenge. Kane approached with the kind of authority that didn't need words. "License and registration," he barked. Marcus nodded. "Yes, officer. My license is in my wallet, registration in the glove compartment. May I reach for them?" Kane's eyes narrowed, but he didn't answer. Marcus moved slowly anyway, narrating his every step like his life depended on it. He handed over his license, then the registration. Kane didn't even look at them. Instead, he leaned closer, his expression sharp. "You fit the description." Marcus froze. "What description is that?" No answer. Kane's hand rested near his holster. Marcus raised his hands slightly, palms open, voice steady but firm. "Officer, I'm just trying to..." "Step out of the vehicle." The command was cold. Absolute. Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped out, the night air hitting his face like a warning. And that's when Kane grabbed him. Without explanation, Kane shoved him against the hood of his car, his voice dripping with contempt. "Resisting, huh?" "I'm not resisting," Marcus replied, his tone careful, measured. But Kane wasn't listening. He never intended to. And yet, Kane didn't know he was being watched. Marcus's dashcam was recording. A neighbor's security camera had a perfect view. And from across the street, Jasmine, a young woman with her phone out, was live streaming every second. This wasn't going to disappear. Not this time. Kane snapped the cuffs around Marcus's wrists, the steel biting into his skin. "People like you," Kane muttered under his breath, "never learn." Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He stared straight ahead, memorizing every detail, because deep down he knew this was bigger than him. This was the moment that would turn his quiet life into a fight he couldn't walk away from. And that was just the beginning. By the way, if you're feeling this story and believe these voices need to be heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us keep going. Now, let's get back to it. Marcus sat in the back of the cruiser, hands cuffed, wrists burning. He stared out the window at the dark streets passing by, his reflection staring back at him, calm, but not broken. 3 hours later, they let him go. No charges. No explanation. Kane didn't even file proper paperwork. It was the kind of abuse of power Marcus had read about, the kind his mother warned him about. But this time, Marcus had something different. The next morning, Marcus uploaded the dashcam footage. Jasmine's live stream was already making the rounds online. And within hours, the internet erupted. Comment after comment poured in. "This is why we record everything. Sue the department." "We're with you, Marcus." Kane had no idea what was coming. Because Marcus didn't just have a video, he had witnesses. A neighbor's security footage confirmed the stop. Jasmine's live stream captured Kane's words. And Marcus? He wasn't interested in silence. He was ready to fight. The story made local news first. A short segment, just a few minutes long. But Marcus didn't stop there. He spoke to reporters, stood in front of cameras, and laid out exactly what happened with a calmness that was more powerful than anger. "Some of us do everything right," Marcus said, his voice steady, unwavering. "We comply. We don't argue. We survive. But sometimes, even that isn't enough. That's why this has to stop, because next time, it might not end with just handcuffs." That soundbite went viral. By the next morning, Marcus's name was trending. National outlets picked up the story. And for the first time, Kane wasn't the one in control. The department called it a misunderstanding. They placed Kane on administrative leave, which Marcus knew was just paid vacation disguised as punishment. But he wasn't finished. Because Marcus didn't want pity. He wanted accountability. And that's when others started coming forward. One by one, people from the same town began to speak up. A college student, a single father, even a retired veteran. All of them had a story about Kane. All of them had been too scared to speak, until now. Marcus was no longer just one man. He was the spark that lit a fire the department couldn't put out. Lawyers reached out. Civil rights organizations called. And Marcus? He started building something airtight. A case that wouldn't just expose Kane, but the entire system that protected him. The videos kept spreading. Kane's name became a hashtag. And for once, the world was watching. But Marcus knew one thing. This wasn't over. Because in a small town like his, power didn't give up easily. And Kane? Kane wasn't the type to go down quietly. Marcus was ready for him. What he didn't know was that the fight was about to get even bigger. And in the days to come, Bradley Kane would learn exactly what it feels like when the people you once silenced finally start to speak. Marcus Lee didn't flinch when he saw the unmarked car parked outside his building. He didn't call anyone. He didn't even pull the curtains. He simply looked at it, expressionless, the way a man looks at a storm that's already passed over his head. By now, he understood Kane. This wasn't about law. It wasn't about procedure. It was a message, a crude one. We're still watching you. Stay quiet or you'll regret it. But Marcus didn't scare easy anymore. He'd already lived through his worst night. What else could they do to him? 2 days later, the same thing happened again. This time, it wasn't an unmarked car. 2 uniformed officers pulled him over on his way to work. No ticket. No explanation. Just a smirk and a "drive safe." It was deliberate. It was designed to wear him down. Instead, it did the opposite. Marcus went home, opened his laptop, and called his attorney. "This ends in a courtroom," he said. The attorney didn't argue. She just nodded. "Then we'll hit them where it hurts." The lawsuit was filed the next morning, not just against Kane but against the department itself. Marcus wasn't content with one man's punishment. He wanted the rot carved out of the whole system. The department resisted. They claimed confidentiality. They stalled. They dragged their feet on every request. But Marcus's lawyers didn't stop. Every time the department pushed back, they pushed harder. Word spread quickly. The same people who had once whispered their fear of Kane now spoke openly. At first, it was small, neighbors stopping Marcus in the grocery store to say, "We're behind you," or strangers leaving notes on his car with words like, "Keep going." But then came the protests. Dozens of people stood outside the police station, holding signs that read, "Justice for Marcus." Enough is enough. And most damning of all, investigate Kane. And the cameras followed. Local news first, then regional, then national. For the first time in his career, Kane wasn't the hunter. He was the hunted. Then came the leak. It wasn't official. It didn't come through a courtroom. One night, Marcus's attorney forwarded him an email with a single attachment, a PDF of an internal affairs report from 5 years earlier. Inside was a complaint, not from a civilian, from another officer. Kane had been accused of excessive force. The department had buried it. And that wasn't the only one. By the time the legal team finished digging, there were 7 complaints in total. 7 chances to stop him. 7 chances to hold him accountable. 7 times the department looked the other way. Marcus stared at the screen for a long time, jaw tight, the weight of it all pressing down. "This isn't a lawsuit anymore," he said quietly. "This is a reckoning." When the story broke, the town exploded. The mayor called for an emergency review of the police department. State investigators descended on the station like hawks. Reporters camped outside Kane's house. And the man who once strutted through town like he owned it? He disappeared. No more intimidation. No more unmarked cars. Kane went silent. Weeks later, the town council announced a special meeting. The topic, Kane's future. The room was standing room only. Marcus walked in with his attorney at his side. His mother was there too, seated in the front row, her hands folded tightly, her lips pressed together like she was holding back years of prayers. Then Kane walked in. No badge. No uniform. No gun. Just a man. The room went quiet. For years, people had seen him as untouchable. Now, stripped of the symbols that once made him powerful, he looked small. The council chair began to speak, but Marcus didn't wait. He stood, stepped forward, and turned to face Kane. His voice carried, not loud, but clear enough to cut through the silence. "For years, you made us feel small," Marcus said. "You made us afraid to drive home, afraid to walk outside, afraid to be seen. But look around, Kane. You're the one who's alone now." Kane didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look on his face was enough. The council voted unanimously. Kane was fired. The police chief resigned an hour later. And for the first time in decades, the department announced a full independent audit of every officer on the force. Marcus stood in the back of the room, hands in his pockets, his expression calm. This wasn't triumph. This wasn't revenge. It was something better. It was change. But Marcus wasn't done. With the settlement from his lawsuit, he launched a nonprofit. He called it Proof. Its mission was simple: provide dashcams and legal aid to drivers in his town, so no one else would ever have to stand alone the way he once did. When they can't erase the evidence, Marcus told the local news, they can't erase you. And it worked. Within months, the same officers who had once acted untouchable now thought twice before every traffic stop. The same community that once stayed silent now knew their rights. Even his mother, who had spent years begging him to stay out of trouble, hugged him one night and said, "You turned trouble into change." As for Kane, reporters tried to find him. Some said he moved 2 towns over. Others whispered he couldn't get another job in law enforcement. Marcus didn't care, because Kane had given him something he never expected: purpose. He wasn't just a man who survived a bad stop. He was the man who had forced an entire town to see what they had ignored for years. Now, when Marcus walked through town, people didn't look away anymore. They nodded. They spoke his name. They thanked him. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Lee believed something he never thought he would. One man can change a system. And maybe he thought that's where real justice begins.